like a few seconds afterwards. Okay, and we are live. I am live with Nicole. And honestly, I love all my guests. They're all special to me, but I could not wait for Nicole to come on. She has got such an impactful story. And I think I cried during our pre-interview with you. So I just want anyone that's watching right now, there might be a little bit of a trigger warning. Okay, she has a very powerful story. And I've already got goosebumps. So I'm going to let her take it away. But if you'd like to reach out to her, I'm going to start scrolling her links down here, but you can also find them in the comments section as well. So you can go ahead and find that during while we're talking or afterwards. So Nicole, you go ahead and take it away, hon.
Hi. Well, thank you, Melinda, for letting me be here today. I'm super excited. I I'm I was hoping that we'd start with questions. So I I am an author of a couple of booklets. I'm working on my fourth one. It's the needs languages, and it's about how our personalities communicate. And I think I started on the journey a long time ago because I grew up in some very traumatic situations. And as we all know, women years and years and years ago were just starting to get our voice. That's why the Me Too movement has been so huge. We were never really allowed to have our voices or even our identities. Our identities have been really told that they had to be in a particular way. They had to be with either a man or in our elitist, if we were, queens or things like that. And now we're able to have that, and we're able to start identifying who we are and how amazing we are, so we can find balance, so we can create belonging. And I I had lost that because I had grown up around a lot of alpha females that were not told that it was okay to be the alpha female. And so I was really excited because I never didn't like myself. It was that everybody told me I had to be this way, and I could never fit what they wanted, partly because I'm not that personality. But the other reason was because I have a learning disability on top of that, and I was traumatized. So when you have those aspects, then you're not able to fit what people want, and it gets really challenging, especially when you don't have the same so the needs language is how our personalities communicate. And when you have the opposite needs languages and it's a parent, you're never going to be able to communicate that same communication, and it's really challenging. And so when you have trauma, a disability, and then on top of that, it's like a triple whammy.
My heart. Well, if you want to touch on just a little bit of how you got to this point, because I think it's fascinating and just miraculous that you're here talking to me, you're healing,
Yeah.
you are, I looking at you, I would never know you went through with what you went through. So can you shed some light on that?
So I am my biological father is a Vietnam vet, and he had some shattering when he was growing up, I believe. And he should not have gone to the war. He was one of those people that they should have tested, and a lot of Vietnam vets they did that with. And he was involved with a couple of people, and I remember having a Luciferian service with him, and that was very challenging. My biological grandfather was with the good old boys. I think he was a Satanist. He was involved with some of the priests in the Catholic Church, and there were some rituals there. And then my mom and my biological father, there was a lot of domestic violence there. And back then, women didn't have the ability to escape. And my grandma, it was like generational domestic violence. My grandma had the same thing with my grandpa, and they didn't have the room to escape. My biological father's stepdad and his mother were not like that. However, I was very fortunate to have an aunt on my biological father's side who had a seeing disability, and my mother was able to watch that with her. And because of that, she was able to recognize my learning disability and get me some help. If it wasn't for that, she wouldn't have been able to get me some of the help I needed. So I do have to give my mother credit in that aspect, even though our personalities never met and she's been very, very broken. So I have to give her some credit in that aspect.
Oh, my heart.
Yeah.
So what was that pivotal moment for yourself when you realized that you needed to pick that maybe that you were broken, that none of this was normal? Was there ever what was that big moment for you?
I lost myself. I kept fighting because I knew it was always told that it was really challenging in some aspects because having an aunt with a seen disability and then yours is unseen makes it really challenging. And the PTSD, because when it's so severe and you keep getting shattered and shattered and shattered and shattered, and there's no one like you. I mean, as an important value, I was always around control rights, a lot of them. And I couldn't find an important value. I was meeting people in the value, but sometimes value people seem very like more low key and they're not as ambitious and they're not as dominant. And so when you're with the alpha females or the alpha males, they're like, what are you hanging out with? And it made it really challenging as far as like personalities. And so I kept losing myself more and over again, and I couldn't obtain what I felt my family standards were. So I just died. And I think one day I just felt like God say, you need to start doing something different. And I just started collaging. I collaged my whole home. And but I kept losing. But for an important person, they have to, how their mind works, if they feel like they can't win the prize, they give up, they die. For a value person, if they can't find a benefit, they die. They literally die if everything costs too much. So if you're feeling that you can't get a prize and you can't find a benefit, you're dying. And so I had to rewire myself to see that. And I had to start finding people who would want to be around me. And I would get these little things here and there that would help that. So it's starting to do things like I discovered, I hear gratitude's going to change your brain. Okay, well, I can't find anything to be grateful for, so I'd have a base gratitude. And I started, it would just have these encounters here and there that would just I'd start to get off track, and then an encounter would sit me back on track. Like a person would say something to me. Or I would put a collage up or a vision board type thing, and it would get so embedded in my subconscious mind that I could not stop. And I mean, bad things. I mean, when you have these kind of ritual things happen, what a lot of people don't understand, it's like embedded in you where you're trying to uplift curses off of you so you can actually do what you're supposed to do. It's not like the average life. It is really, really hard. And then on top of it, with a disability. And then on top of it, you have that personality aspect. And there's just a lot of combos. It's not like a lot of our people that are struggling, that are on the streets, have a bunch of these combos. And so when people say, pull yourself up from your bootstraps, you want to go, how, if we don't have people come around us? It's really about us working together as a society. When you haven't had these struggles, you don't know. And it's not the people who've had these struggles coming around side of them. It's all of us working together.
Right, and that makes total sense because many times victims, oh, you should have left sooner, or why didn't you tell somebody? I mean, and it's so hurtful, and it's really hard. It's really hard, especially if it's a child.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and you don't tell anybody because you're called a liar. Why? You don't know how many times people have said, oh, you don't have a disability. Excuse me, were you diagnosed? Were you in my brain? I actually was working with, I've worked with a so-called government agency that's supposed to help me with, disabilities and, work and all those kinds of things. They had hired someone to do testing on me, said I did not have my bachelor's degree when I have my bachelor's degree. And they believed them over my bachelor's degree.
Wow.
So, and have told me that I'm incapable with my disability. So you want to tell me that I need to keep reporting. I was in a conflict resolution webinar with as an alumni with my college, and they said that people will say that people like to say, oh, rape's overreported. Who's gonna go through that? That is not true. That is one of the least overreported crimes out there. So when we're doing that to people, why are they gonna want to report? I mean, those are the things we've got to think about, people. I mean, come on. Why you're blaming the victim. You're not giving them support, and then you're blaming them again, and you're shaming them again. People, I've had some weird encounters with people say weird things to me. And so what it is it's just validating. If you aren't willing to validate me and I'm willing to validate you, you're not going to be in my life. I do not deal with invalidators. I call them those little like you think about an invalidator. They're like these little, you almost want to these like toy soldiers. They're the invalidators. They're like the invaders. Invalidators aren't allowed in my life. I had a person that I went to high school with, and we had some conflicts, and they've had some serious things happen in their life, and I've just noticed they keep invalidating me, but they want to be validated. And they set me up this last time, and I said, I'm done. We're not talking anymore. I'm done. You will not invalidate me. You will not say, well, if that's what you believe that you went through. My mother even told them my biological father was challenging. And they still say that to me. And I go, okay, you don't want to believe me, tell me. Just say, I don't believe you. Fine. Don't talk to me then. I don't need your invalidation. I know what happened to me. And if you don't want to believe me, that's fine. You don't have to.
And I know that's a lot of issues with many victims as well. When you said people don't believe you, sometimes they don't want to believe that, oh, that great guy that's got such a great sense of humor would do molesting his child or do a ritual on their grandchildren or beat their wife or whatever it is. And it can't be it. They just can't fathom that this person can actually do this to another person. And they can. It's like leading a dual life. It really is.
Well, and the other thing is we also shame our predators way too much. So they can't get the healing they need. We have got to get them healing, and we've got to start, instead of saying, how do you protect we still need to protect ourselves, don't get us wrong, but we need to get to them. How do you not do this? And we need to get them in a place where they can be vulnerable so they don't do it, instead of shaming them and making them be these horrible monsters in society so that they continue to do it. Because what happens when you make someone feel horrible over and over and over again? I was watching a dating show because I've been doing some research around that with my model just for fun. And this person gets on immediately and says, it's the end of this show. It's Love is Blind. It's the second season of this one. And he gets
I haven't watched it, but yes.
Yeah, he gets on immediately and says, this has not shown me in the right light. And immediately, basically, is what he says. And then everyone starts just getting on him. And well, what happened is instead of giving that space for him to say, I do not feel comfortable with this, everybody starts, and whether his behavior is not appropriate or not is not the issue. The issue is they joined the victim rescuer predator triangle with him. It continued down that path instead of saying, well, do you like the outcome of how this went? Well, no, I don't. Well, then what do you need to do to change the outcome? How are we going to change outcomes if we're always fighting amongst each other or telling people they're wrong or telling people what they're doing is? We need to say, this is harmful to you and harmful to others. Because if we go at it from that perspective, then that changes things. Because really, we don't change bad behavior by shaming people or behavior that's harmful by shaming people. We change it through showing someone that this is going to hurt them. Because people that are hurting other people really don't care about you. But if you show it's hurting them, and destroying them is sometimes it does when it hurts other people, but you've got to show them how it's going to affect things in such a way that there's through their lens.
Okay.
Show them through their needs lens how it's not going to be affect them in a way that's going to be it's going to change. And that's where we have to figure out how do we do this. So
I was just thinking, how do you do that, especially with somebody that doesn't think that they may have a problem, or it's been going on like generationally for so long that that's their normal, and they might deny it.
Yeah.
I mean, in your family, as an example, was there ever any healing throughout?
There hasn't been, but what there has been is there's been walking away.
Okay.
And you're right, there has to be a willingness, but a lot of it is because society doesn't create that space.
Mm-hmm.
And I've come to the point where I didn't know how to speak the language at that time either. If I were to go back, I would speak the language differently. I would speak the language of the two people that really struggled. I would speak the language of important and right. At this point, because of the rituals, I don't feel comfortable, and I don't want someone else there to help navigate that. I'm just not wanting that. I don't want restoration. With the control rights, I would speak. See, with the important rights, I connect in the important, so I can speak important with them. But with the control rights, where there's nothing there, I would have a connector, meaning a control person or a right person that met me either in value or right, and I would have a conversation where they would still maintain control or still maintain some sort of right.
Okay.
Where I wouldn't be, I would communicate with them along those lines. And that's where it becomes really challenging. So, but yeah, I think it's more so giving that space, because we've got to change this behavior and change this pattern. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying what they did was right. And I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying we've got to create a space so that this pattern stops happening.
Right. Because that'd be awesome. I mean, I would love to have a rational, sane conversation and not a comfortable relationship with my ex, as an example.
Mm-hmm.
But, God can work miracles.
Yeah.
And so I'm just listening to that, and I'm thinking to myself, he was such a monster. And I just wonder, is there a way for someone that is, and you hear these heinous crimes and so on, and even what you experienced, that would be tough for me. I mean, it's tough for me now, especially there's allegations of molestation of one of my children by him. So it's hard for me to to think that I could sit down civilly with him and, talk to him with your language. I don't know if I could do that, but I would love to read how, and how do you figure out what type of need language that you have?
So it's listening to the person.
Okay.
People will always tell you who they are by what they speak. They will tell you what they believe. It's like body language.
Okay.
I'm not going to sit there and tell you what you have to watch the body language. Okay. There are body language experts and people out there. They'll tell you, sometimes when you cross your arms and you go like this, you're going to know people's body languages. Smile is not going to tell you that someone's friendly. Frown's going to tell you someone's upset. There's some basic things we have with body language. Well, there's some basic things with the needs language. There are people who are going to speak certain words or do certain actions when you're around them. An important person's going to draw more attention when they walk in a room. A right person's going to use more, well, wow, that was the right thing to do, or they're going to say more right thing. I mean, there's going to be certain patterns and certain words people use. You're going to be able to pick it up if you listen.
Okay.
It's just like, when we were talking about abusers a second ago, abusers and people will tell you what they think and feel. You just got to listen. We were, me and someone else were watching some interesting things about some people in that we were watching some cult, we would call them cult leaders. We stayed up till 2 a.m. and we were watching and we were listening to the words of the people, and we're like, that's what people weren't listening, and they were giving code to what they were saying. Sit in the front row. We only have people of this certain kind sit in the front row, and if they don't, they're not of such and such. And they're like, ooh, that's what they were saying. Well, someone was giving this word or something. You're going to be able to persuade and convince. Those are more right words. And I was like, okay, I know that's a right person. That's going to be this kind of a person. And so, but I also know out of their mouth what they're speaking. So people will tell you who they are, and they'll agree with you too. You just got to listen.
Oh, and you know what, that is important, because I think that the art of conversation is a lost art. So many of us, and I've done this myself, want to be heard. And so sometimes we'll talk over other people just to get our point across, whether it's a good point or a bad point or argumentative. Some of us now are a little more confrontational. We saw that last year and the year before that. And definitely through the 3 or 4 years with our politicians before that. So yes, yeah, but just sitting there and just having a nice conversation. And sometimes I like to just be with others. We don't necessarily have the same beliefs, whether it's religion or politics, but to agree to disagree, but yet still have that conversation, because you can pull some golden nuggets really and truly and learn a lot from another person. And you might even be swayed.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's also knowing when to walk away.
Yes.
And when to agree. Sometimes you've got to agree. I had something recently happen with someone who is a right control. And I know in this situation, I have to maybe do some research and contact some people to make sure that what they did wasn't unethical. And I had to agree with them, because I knew that I needed to make sure that things are, just because I needed to get them off the kind of the bandwagon. And so, I agree that can be challenging, or I agree. And it's not that I'm lying. In certain situations that would not necessarily need to happen. In this situation, I believe differently, but I'm going to, I agree that maybe didn't need to happen in this situation, or not in every situation, or, sometimes, or even for your safety, you got to agree and get out of there.
Right.
And so we have to look at those aspects too. The most important thing is your safety. The most important thing is protecting your destiny, or protecting yourself, or protecting where you're wanting to go.
Okay. So it sounds like boundaries are really and truly something that we need to focus on throughout. And I know that for myself too, but yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I like that you've established that on your own.
Yeah.
On your own. And I have to ask you, so again, I would have never guessed that you had such a tumultuous childhood, upbringing, and so on. And here you are today, smile on your face. And we chatted a little bit before that. We've had a few laughs here and there.
Yeah.
What was that healing journey like for you? Because I know I had gotten frustrated myself, but I hear from other survivors of different things, and they're like, well, I want to be healed now. I don't know if you ever had that experience, but what was that experience like for you?
Isolating, alone, and effing hard.
Okay.
It was, I was like, no one wanted to come near me. I had been basically, as I say this, please, I was basically raped of who I was. Okay. And I had to sit down and read books to learn how to connect with people. Mm-hmm. There wasn't someone out there to work with me. A lot of times when you have just been utterly destroyed and just devastated to the point where there's nothing, people don't know how to deal with it. People don't know how to work with you. And I don't blame people. Oh my gosh, it is so hard. They've got their own lives. They've got their own struggles. People aren't taught. we do not have at regular hand things like EMDR, emotion code, and our insurances aren't covering this. For our lowest of the lowest people out there, for the most traumatized, for our homeless, they are not getting the things like EFTN. There's a new one out, or a newer one out, called Family Systems, and it's really awesome. It can deal with your fragments. I recently got the opportunity to do a session with that, and I've done similar work with something similar that has I don't remember what the other kinds of called, but so we don't have that as a regular access for the people who need it the most. We have it for the people who can financially afford it. So what we have is we have the people who are needing it the most, who are getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And then we have the people who can't come around them, and the people who have more of status and more of the wealth, because they haven't been shattered to that degree, going, we don't want all these homeless people around. Now, I haven't been in those situations to that level or any of those kinds of things, but they're like, we don't want these people around on our property. How dare you? We don't want to pay taxes. You need to pick yourself up bootstraps, because I have. And they want to look at them and go, we're a community, we're a society. How do we work together? If you don't want to work towards help, we need to be getting this into the people. Because it's not prosperity isn't a competition. Prosperity is for everybody. And if we work together, we can have everybody using their gifts and talents. I like to say we're all a piece of the puzzle. We're all uniquely and differently made. And when we go into the puzzle and we're all using our gifts and talents of our personality, our needs languages, they all have special giftings and they work together, we can do some amazing innovation, oh my gosh. Even though I don't connect with a control right fits in this puzzle piece, and it works with a control value, and then I work with a control value as an important value, and then we put all these pieces together, and you've got this amazing puzzle. Everybody's working with their personalities, their needs languages, and then you've got all this innovation. And now, but by not helping that shattered person, that broken person, that maybe SRA person, or that person who is sex trafficked, or or so abused, that was traumatized by 5 people or whatever, and they can't get their mental health because they've been shattered and fractured and all these things, and they can't do society. You've cut them out of the puzzle, out of your ignorance. And you can't expect the people who have healed, who have worked hard, to go fix that. It's all of us working together, because I may have had to spend so much time working to heal, and I may be called to do something else, to create a system to give to you to help those people. I may not be called directly to be in that pot doing a one-on-one. So then you would be taking away from me to help a bigger thing. So what I'm trying to say is, we're all called to work together. And that's where the problem is we're saying, oh, that's not my problem. Or how do we work together?
Right. Oh, that's beautiful. Yes, it's so true. That is so true. It really is. Oh, that's powerful.
Yeah.
So you have your books. You're on with your next book. That is so exciting. And let me ask you, what's this? How did this come to you?
Oh my gosh, I think it really started when I started to realize I can design myself. I always knew I never could fit. It was just weird. I knew I would never be what people wanted me to be. I couldn't.
Okay.
I would watch my mom and I would say, she can fit in these boxes that everybody wants her to be. How come I can't? And I think it always started there. And then I read I read like Nicholas Boothman, How to Get Someone to Like You in 90 Seconds or Less, and I read How to Make Friends and Influence People. I was reading that like at 18. I was really trying to connect my brain around this, but I couldn't because the trauma had been so bad.
Okay.
And when I kept losing and losing, I still kept wanting, how do I connect? How do I connect? How do I do this? How do I do this? And when I put outside of my bedroom door what I wanted to be, and I did the I am statement, I am this, I am this, I am this. And I mean, it was just piece by piece by piece. I mean, it took years. I mean, we're talking years. I'm talking like probably at least this journey took at least 10 years, if not more, to put together. I think I've been putting it together all my life. I just think with all the different things coming, you're in you're in that thing, and you get up and boom, you get that boom. And so then all the pieces started to connect, and it was like, oh my gosh, so gold mine. And so after that, I would be in college, and I did conflict resolution in my undergrad and business in my undergrad. I minored in both those. And then in my master's, I did industrial organizational psychology. I say you need a degree to say it or spell it. It's basically workplace psychology. And I saw nothing connected. Why are we doing leadership models without conflict resolution, communication? Why are none of college departments working together? What's going on here? Nothing's connected. Nobody's connecting dots. And as I started doing this, then I'm looking at Yeo Young and Hippocrates, and I'm looking at the personality models, and I'm like, these are great. But personality isn't just about me, it's about you, how we communicate. How come there's no communication on how our personalities communicate? So, okay, now what are people's patterns here that are pretty consistent? And I started seeing some patterns, and I started seeing where people connect. And I always knew growing up, when my stepdad came into the family, I wanted to date someone like my stepdad. It was like his personality just fit with me. I like control, and I like value. Value is where I meet. When you date someone, you meet someone in something that's the same and something that's different. That's how you connect. And in the needs language. And I am actually dating someone that has that same needs language. And my stepdad and my partner, they met, and they're like twins. It's so funny to watch the two of them. It's like, you have your twin. And it is awesome. It is so awesome. And my friends that are my twins, I'm like, you're my twin. And we have certain same patterns, and we can laugh, and it is so much fun. And just to have your twin, and I realized my biological father's mother was a control value. And my my step grandpa, which I called him my grandpa, he was amazing, was a control important. And so I personally think that's part of the reason why I like the control more than I like the other type. But that played a factor for me. So I know what personality type I would date. And this also helps with eliminating dating issues, because now you can design according to your personality. It helps, because how many of the dating models go, how many of the personality models go, okay, this is who your personality is. Now let's go figure out which one will work with you. And how do you communicate? My partner and I use this to resolve conflict all the time in our communication.
And my only thing is, how do you not connect with somebody that you don't want to, that maybe it's a past person was abusive, or just like somebody you don't want to attract that same person back, that same personality type. So in your books, you can break that down, or how would that work?
I talk stories more about where you connect at, or you can choose where you want to connect at. So for me, I know my biological father and my grandfather are important rights. And I have friends who are important rights. I love my friends who are important rights. I just don't necessarily want to date them. And I've had a few want to try and date me, and I'm like, it doesn't really work for me. You're great for me as far as friends, but that's not where I want to go. And it's not that I couldn't, it's just, it doesn't really work for me. My ex-husband's a right value, and him and I had some struggles. He tried to run me over the car when I was pregnant, and so I'm not really into right values. I could date a right value. It would have to be the right kind of right. It'd have to work for me because we could meet in value. My son is a right value. I love my son. We have the best banter, the best humor. I mean, just great. We get along so well. Um, but that's not quite, I like control because to me, it helps temper me down with my importance, because I can be so driven and so goal oriented that what it does is it helps me kind of mellow out. It can help me when I can be more going, I'm on the race, I'm going for something I shouldn't be going for. And then they can go, have you thought about that? They help me in ways that I feel I need help. So that's why I choose that personality, because of the way it works with mine and the way we can communicate. And so that's why.
Oh, I like that. I like that. And you just talking about, I'm thinking about Mr. Awesome, and I'm pretty sure that he would be a control person, because he is that type of person that I fly by the seat of my pants most of the time. And so he's usually like, oh, reel it back. Okay, did you think about this, XYZ? Did you think about what's going to happen if you just do this or say this? Like, no. Yeah, yeah, okay. I can see that. I
Yeah.
can see that. Well, it also sounds like a lot of fun.
It is. Oh, it is. Because you can go, I can say to my son, I'm not right. I'm not right. He go, well, I'm not important. Yeah. So yeah. And and you learn so much. Oh my gosh. You learn how to communicate. And when things aren't going right, going well, you can re-navigate. And that's where it becomes a place of just so much learning and so much healing. And you come out of a place where you don't hate people. You don't end up using so many labels. I do not like the labels people have. I say now people are imbalanced, or they've been shattered in their needs languages. That to me becomes something so much more powerful, because I think when we say that, it gives people power to become balanced. You can have the power to be balanced in who you are. I've heard so many times people say to me, there's no hope for you, Nicole. There's no hope for you. There's no hope for you. There's no hope. And there's hope for everybody. There's hope for everybody to have balance so they can have belonging. There's hope for everybody to not be homeless. There's hope for everybody to have a healthy relationship if they want it. There's hope for everybody to have healing.
That's beautiful. And hope is my word. It's been my word for the past 10 plus years. So thank you for saying that. I love that. I love that. And just the act of coming together as a community and with a place of love.
Yeah.
Wow, that would be really powerful for our world, especially now. Really and truly, especially now. Now, do you have a test or anything for this, or you just how would a person go about figuring out who they are, where their loved ones are?
So I do have a test for this, and I am working on getting it out.
Okay.
And I just recently got a virtual assistant to, I think I said that right, to help me. And because I put out, we just launched this like the end of last year, like end of October. And so it's like getting everything out, and I'm getting my fourth one out, my workplace booklet out, because I'm going to be speaking on disabilities in the workplace at the end of April at a convention, and then I will be doing a TED talk I just found out it should be out on April 21st.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations.
So I'm super excited about this, and I will be talking a little bit about disabilities and dating, and I will be bringing the needs languages in to talk about how all that connection works, because people with disabilities, and PTSD is some of the disabilities, have a little harder time, because how do you say, oh, by the way, I'm Nicole, I have a disability, I may misunderstand you, please don't use it against me. I have an auditory and visual processing disorder. I may hear, instead of Tampa, Florida, I may hear Tampa, Florida.
And I get that. I'm actually deaf in my left ear.
Yeah.
So I do have, and of course the label PTSD, Stockholm Syndrome. So no, I get that. And just chatting with somebody, they say, oh, I want to tell you a secret. And they'll come right over here. It's like, I can't hear you. You're like, well, you're rude. It's like, no, I really can't hear you out of that side of my ear. Or telling the workplace, hey, I do have this disability. I can't hear out of this ear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been a very difficult at times topic, subject, and even though I don't feel that I need any special treatment or anything, but don't call me in a busy crowd, because I'll just go do circles until I find the voice. I'll be like, okay, who's calling me? Yes. Yeah. But I get that. I'm so proud of you. That's exciting.
Yeah.
What, girl?
I am so excited. I think we need to talk more about the uncomfortability that we struggle with disabilities, and how much shame we have, especially when it's unseen, because that's the whole liar thing that people will go, yeah, you really did hear me. Or, you didn't misunderstand. Why are you so upset? Well, I misunderstood you, or no, you don't need that reasonable accommodation. That's not fair to the other students. Well, they don't have a process. Well, that's all in your head. Yeah, you're right. This isn't all in my head, and so how do you explain that to someone you're dating, especially if it's you have a life threatening type of thing, like you have seizures, and so you can't go to something that has flashing lights,
right?
So you have to make arrangements, or you may have something where you can't eat certain foods, or you have to certain things you have to disclose if you're meeting someone for the first time.
Right.
And some you don't, but you may have to disclose down the road, because you may be on Social Security, or and that can affect your long-term relationship, or you may have sensory issues and you can't be in crowds, and they may go, hey, I planned this amazing date, I bought these concert tickets to go see such and such, and you're like,
right,
I can't be in the crowds.
Right. And that's a lot of my family, and a lot of myself. I'm Lyme challenged as well, so I have a lot more sensitivities now, sounds, and different fabrics, so I've got to watch scents and so on. So yeah, I sound like a hot mess the way you describe it. But yes, explaining some of these things to bosses, I was a little bit embarrassed to say, I'm crying in the bathroom because I just heard a song and it reminded me of my ex, or someone just said a word and I am now hiding in a corner because I don't know, for some reason, I'm thinking my ex is around the corner, or whatever it was. That was a difficult topic. They didn't understand. They were like, oh yeah, sure, Melinda, give me a hug, or, you take time off. But they have no clue. And they were sweet. Don't get me wrong. Everybody that I've talked to has been very supportive and whatnot. But if you haven't walked a mile in someone's shoes that has disabilities, that has these maybe mental health issues, and so on, these health challenges, you don't get it. You don't.
And you've been very fortunate, because there are a lot of employers who do not. I know women who have been fired from their jobs because they've had to go to the bathroom to change a tampon or a pad. And that is not okay. And there are people out, we have jobs, and part of the reason we're having retention issues is because we are not having people get their needs met in the
Right.
workplace, and we need to change. So we need to change some laws, like a 10-minute break in 4 hours. That's not okay.
Right.
And employers that say you can only go to the bathroom on your break time, that's not okay.
Right.
Well, what about the people who take advantage of that? Well, if they wouldn't have people take advantage of that if you were okay, if you were fair.
Right.
What about the people who don't? Yeah, I had an employer years ago say to me, I had a menstruation, and years ago they had said to me, I said I had started, and I never took breaks, during my. I was really good about that, and he said, I'm going to have to. I may have to. Well, don't make we have people who take it. I said, excuse me, would you rather have me bleed on the floor? That's gross. I said, well, it's not fair for you to say to me, I can't do that and give me a hard time. How dare you?
Right.
Well, then don't expect that response from me. I've gotten to the point where I am not going to let people bully me over what my body needs.
Right. Right.
And that these are things that us humans need. This is not a want. This isn't, I want a brand new red Corvette. My body needs the bathroom. My body has been traumatized. I have been hurt. I can't handle bright lights. I can't handle crowds. I get nervous. I went to a concert last night, and there were people dancing really wild, and I was in the corner kind of like this, and I could only handle so much of it. And the concert was nice and wonderful, and I was with my friends, and they're great. Finally said, I need to go sit down. I need to be away from this. This is too much for me.
Right.
And I did pretty good for a while, but I know my limits, and I know what I can and cannot handle. And I had earplugs in, and I was with someone so that we were really close together, so I was safe. I know with my spatial disability, I need someone to make sure that in certain cities I'm with someone and travel, because I get lost really easily. I have I can't read maps.
Okay.
And so I have to do certain things around that, and that's okay. But you know what? My talents are somewhere else. Someone else's talents are maybe reading maps. That's why we work together. We're not meant to do everything. And when you go to an employment or a relationship situation, that's how you complement each other.
And you're saying that, and I'm immediately thinking of, there's like 2 or 3 people that immediately come to mind where they grew up not knowing that they had special issues, special needs. Once they were adults, they did, but their family was horrible to them, just teased them because of these needs that they had, and they were never met. So there was a lot of anxiety, depression into adulthood. So that just really just went to my heart. Like, yes, it'd be nice to be paired up or have somebody that's understanding. And yes, I am very blessed. I am very blessed for the life that I have, really and truly.
So I want to get this out there. This is the one thing that's super important that we need to say. And this is another, because so we had talked earlier about joy, misery loves company.
Right.
It's horrible. We want joy loves company. We are hanging out with joy. Joy is our best friend. So this is the other one that needs ability within context, or capability within context. Think about that for a second.
Ooh.
We need to start saying in our workplace, ability within context or capability within context. What that means is, an example, you have a job with a van, and you're delivery driver. If you don't give the car keys, you can't do the job. You don't give them a dolly, they can't do the job. So that's that's the ability within context. That's the capability within context. The capability is the car keys, the dolly. You're giving them the capability to do their job. So that's what it is. A reasonable accommodation isn't giving someone special treatment. You're giving them the car keys so they can do the job. You're giving them the dolly so they can do the job.
Yes. And that's so empowering to somebody too.
Yeah.
It really is. Oh, I could talk to you forever, but I realize we're coming up sometime here. Oh, girl. Oh, this was lovely. This really was. And again, if you'd like to reach out to Nicole, all of her links are here and in the comment section. Oh, girl, you're on fire. I can't wait for your TED Talk. Oh,
Yes.
and really and truly, I'd love to have you on again when you have your fourth book out. But it sounds like you're going to be pretty busy.
Yeah. And remember that with equity. I'm sorry, I got to say that equity. Equity is never taking. Equity is actually giving to all of us.
Well, thank you again for coming on. And thanks everybody for watching. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, by all means, go ahead and drop Nicole a line. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us. Mwah. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.